The main difference between this and a candle is that the wax itself doesn't evaporate. So what's the main difference between using a soy melt and a candle is, well, when you're using a melt, you put the melt in the top of the oil burner and you put the candle in the bottom here. As it gets hot towards the middle, it melts, and then that turns into a gas, and that goes into the atmosphere as a vapor. As that wax burns away, there's no more product for you to create a scent from as each time this candle burns away. The main difference between a candle and a soy melt in an oil burner is that the part of the product that's got the scent in it doesn't evaporate away. Now, the scent will evaporate out eventually. These can't last forever. It'd be great if they... So if you love using candles, it might be worth giving soy melts a try, because it'd probably save you some money. For $4.95 you can get 25 hours of scent time, even more with some of our melts. So put them into your burner and away you go, and have heaps of fun. I'm Marie Hopkinson. I'm the creator of Metro Health Soy Melts. So these are these little tiny melts which are made out of soy wax, and what they do is they go into your oil burner. And today I'm going to show you some different things that you might not know about melts. Pretty much what I would just tell my customers in my bricks and mortar store, and I'm putting a lot of this stuff online now because more and more people are online, and also in this right now because of the virus, lots of people are stuck at home and they're shopping online, and so I want to help educate you and show you how these can work and what they do. So it's a really simple invention, and what the main difference between this and a candle is that the wax itself doesn't evaporate. Right, when you're using a candle, you light the middle of the candle, and as you can see, this is a candle that I've used and it's gone down to about half. So what happens? Where does the wax go? What happens is, as it gets close to the wick, obviously it heats up more and more closer to the wick, and you can see one that I've got burning here. So it's the same principle as if it's a tea light candle or a scented candle, and the whole thing is burning. And so what happens is, as it gets hot towards the middle, it melts, and then that turns into a gas, and that goes into the atmosphere as a vapor. Now, it's usually burning candles isn't really considered toxic. It's not like you're going to breathe in the actual paraffin wax or whatever the wax is made out of, because by the time it's very close, it's in that liquid form, to be converted into a vapor, it's no longer wax anymore. And so it does evaporate and it does go away. When you're using a melt, you put the melt in the top of the oil burner and you put the candle in the bottom here. So with these ones, we would usually use like a 3 or a 4 hour tea light candle, and you put that in there, and yes, that completely evaporates, but there's no scent in this part, and so the scent is all up the top here. When you are heating up, so let's say this was a scented candle, all of this wax is scented, and so as that scent goes out, as that wax burns away, there's no more product for you to create a scent from as each time this candle burns away. The main difference between a candle and a soy melt in an oil burner is that the part of the product that's got the scent in it doesn't evaporate away. Now, the scent will evaporate out eventually. These can't last forever. It'd be great if they could, but they don't last forever. But all our melts last for around between 25 and 30 hours each. So that's a long time of scent burning. And I'll tell you how to get the longest burning time you possibly can, the most value for money out of how you burn these melts in a minute. So what you're essentially doing is you're lighting the candle underneath. You put the wax melt in on the top, and you can snap these in half, or you can put the whole one in at once, whatever you prefer. And then as this wax begins to melt, it's called a scent throw, so that a large amount of scent will suddenly come out, and you'll be like, wow, I can really, this lovely aroma. Exactly how when you burn a candle, you get this kind of scent throw as soon as that wax starts to melt. Now, one of the differences between a soy melt and a candle is candles can be stronger in that initial scent throw, because the heat, because that wax is evaporating, is turning into a liquid, and then it's turning into a vapor. It heats the wax hotter in a candle in a scented candle than it would in a soy melt. And that's one reason why you'll get a stronger smell, but that's also one reason why melts tend to last longer, because you're not overheating the scent containing wax. So essentially if I was to make a candle, I would do exactly the same as this, except put a wick into it and put that into a container. And so when the wick's in there, so it would be the same, what we call scent load, the same amount of liquid of fragrance oil or essential oils it could mix in with this wax. And then that's what they call a scent load. So the percentage of oil, fragrance oils or essential oils that wax can contain. Now, not to get too technical on you, but different kinds of waxes like paraffin wax or soy wax or things like that have different melting points, and so they can also contain a slightly more or less wax, and that's where it gets a bit more technical, and that's where you become more of a candle maker expert, and you kind of get to learn that information as you go, I guess, but that's not really necessary for you to know that. So basically with these melts, what you can do to get the most out of them is do a couple of things. So one is don't burn it for too long, right? So once this house or the room is smelling good, you may just want to turn it off, and that way it'll seal back up again. It'll go back to being hard, just like this. So once it's gone hard, it'll be completely solid in the top of that thing, and you'll be like pushing on it and think, how do I get this thing out, Marie? It's not as easy as you told me. Well, there's a few different aspects to that. If it's a very hot area and this burner itself is quite warm, then it's harder to get it out. So the easiest thing is just to put the whole oil burner, once it's gone hard, and you've turned the candle off obviously, put it in the fridge or the freezer. And don't put it in there for too long, like 20 minutes or something like that in the fridge, or 10 minutes in the freezer, and then you can go back in there and this will be even harder, and then you just push on it. So you use your hands and you push on it, and this is one that I've done before, and you push on it and then you'll see that the wax just comes out. Now if it doesn't push out as easily, you can do what I've done, and I just sort of ran a knife or a pen around the outside, just kind of dig it out a tiny bit and then push on it, and that gets it out really easily. You can put a knife inside it and sort of try to snap it out or something like that if you want to do that. Now what you'll find is if you use your oil burner over and over and over and over, and you use the same melt in there all the time, what you'll find is that you get, now this is just a little bit of a trick, a little tool of the trade, you get this kind of grimy stuff on the bottom of the melt. Now this is an oil burner that I only use outside, and this is like an insect repellent one that I've made. I don't sell this one off the shelf, but it's basically got citronella oil in it, and I use this one outside to kind of repel the insects. And so because it's outside, things are kind of attracting in there, and it looks quite clean and nice on the top, but on the bottom it's got all that gunky sort of sooty part, and it depends on how often you use it and how often you clean it. But what's a good idea to do is to take that off, and then just to scrape that bit of that wax into the bin, and then you can put it back in there and off you go again. And how will you know whether you can reuse it? Well, just smell it. If there's still smell it, that smells very strongly like citronella, and you can still keep on using it. So if you're bored of that scent, you've only got one oil burn, you think, oh, I'm bored of that scent, I bought 5 different soy melts, which ones could I use? I've got this other one in my burner, what do I do? So you can do exactly what I said, push it out, like get it out somehow, push on it, put it in the fridge or the freezer, get it out. And then you can just put this either into like a Ziploc bag or some kind of plastic bag or something where no water's going to get into it. You could wrap it in Glad wrap or something like that if you want, and then just keep it in the fridge. Just seal it up and keep it in the fridge, and that'll keep for ages. In the fridge, it kind of stops any scent going out. Now, if you live in a really hot place, like I live in Perth, Western Australia, and you keep those melts in a hot environment all the time, like it gets up to 35 or 40 degrees in your house, and you've got them sitting on the bench, well, they will melt a little bit, like some scent will start to come out of them. They're not going to melt down. Like the soy wax melt point is around 55 degrees, so it has to get as hot as 50 degrees, but maybe 51 degrees it'll just start to melt, and then 55 degrees is just considered, it's generally like its melting point where it's properly melted. So it doesn't get that hot where we are. But if you live up north, maybe it gets up to 50 degrees, so they may get sweaty, which is sort of like melty. So if you want to keep them for a long time, you think, I've had enough of this smell, I'm not going to use that for a while, just put it into that Ziploc bag, put it in the back of the fridge, and you don't have to think about it. You can get it out later on. They'll last for ages. You can just keep them in the drawer or something like that. I have some customers that would buy them, and we wrap them up in tissue paper normally, and they said, oh, look, I don't even burn these melts. I just keep them in my drawer as a scented drawer thing, right? Well, you can do that if you want, that's fine. And so what you do with the melts, if you're having a party, let's say, and you really want a big scent throw, you could put the whole thing in. right? But if you're not doing that, then just snap it in half and put half in at a time. So this whole thing will go for 25 to 30 hours. And so what happens is when you open it out, when you put it in the very first time, you get a big scent throw, and then each time after that it does get less and less, but it's not a lot less. So probably up to about the fifth or sixth time you've used it, it's still fairly strong. And it depends on what the melt is made out of. Like some scents tend to last longer. They just do. They just naturally last longer. Floral and like more perfumey type of smells tend to last a lot longer. Citrus smells, like we make a soy melt called Citrus Zest, which has got like lemon and orange, mandarin and things like that. We do a melt with just mandarin. Those scents, they tend to go out quicker than the headier, the low end kind of scents. But yeah, it depends on how you store them. So that's one thing to kind of maximize, get the best out of your soy melts. So it's easy to push them in and out, and it's easy to then kind of clean and get all the yucky stuff off the bottom of the melt. So you might be using it in an area where like dirt or dust kind of gets into it when you're burning it, especially if you're doing it outside. Another good place to use your melts in your burners is in the toilet area. So if you're having guests over or you're having people there, or that area is being frequented by people, instead of having something toxic like those perfumey artificial things that kind of you plug in and it goes psh, 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 and sprays perfume out, then you can have this, which is it's actually cheaper. It'll be more cost effective. So these melts, we sell these for $4.95 each. And it's super duper cost effective to use them. So it's generally much cheaper than a candle, and you can get these little tea light candles from like your bargainy sort of shops. Red Dot's a common one. IKEA sells these little candles, that kind of stuff. And so what I would recommend is that you use a 3 to 4 hour tea light candle, not a 6 or 8 or 10 hour tea light candle. Those 9 hour tea light candles, because you generally are keeping on burning the melt after you don't really need it. Like so what happens is once that scent goes out, you will be surprised that scent will still linger in the room even after you've blown the little tea light candle out. So I'm just going to grab this little baby here. This is a strong one that I've been burning this afternoon. So there's the tea light candle sort of in the bottom there, and then the wax is kind of liquid at the top. And so what you can do is just blow this candle out. This will go hard, and you're still enjoying the scent in the room. And if you suddenly think, oh, I'd like some more scent, you can always turn it back on. But if you're using a 3 to 4 hour tea light candle and you're going to be in that room all day, you start off the day with the scent going on, the tea light candle just naturally turns off, and then you still got that beautiful nice scent. You're not kind of wasting the melt, so you're getting a really good value for money. Whereas if you turn on a candle, you have to physically blow this out when you want it to stop. Whereas if you're using a tea light candle, these go for 4 hours, then they stop by themselves. Now, never leave a candle unattended. Don't put a naked flame on and leave the house or any of that sort of stuff. Like, make sure you're around the candle. Don't leave it near pets. Be safe, and don't have it near where kids can get at it. That kind of stuff. Another good thing that you can use what you can do with these. What's great about melts versus essential oils and water-based substances in your burners. So if you're a person that loves using an oil burner and you're used to putting water and then putting oils in there, what will happen is the burner will go dry. So you need to have it somewhere where you can see it. It's sometimes not until you smell that horrible smell and you're like, oh, what's that smell? The burner's going dry, and it's this little sizzly sound will go on. Now that's fine if you're at a desk and you're sitting right next to it. You can kind of see it and stop it straight away. But what's great about the melts, because the wax never evaporates, even if the scent has gone out, that wax just keeps on being melted, and it will never burn dry. So you could put a 9 hour tea light candle on there, let's say you did, and you had it on there all day. You won't have to worry about the burner going dry and having that horrible smell. Or sometimes if people leave their burners going dry with nothing in it, like that burner can get really, really hot and it can crack and things like that. So by having the wax in there, even if there's no scent in there, even if let's say you're at the end of the melt and the scent's gone out, it's a big difference to the water, and it's just something less you have to worry about. So you can have that lovely scent and you can keep going. Yeah, so that's basically what you do with these. And this wax, this soy wax, is biodegradable, so you can just throw it into the rubbish bin. You can throw it into the garden or something like that, and it composts away. So hopefully this has been helpful and useful to you, and helps you on your journey of using melts, and also to get the most economical value. So if you love using candles, it might be worth giving soy melts a try, because it'd probably save you some money. For $4.95 you can get 25 hours of scent time, even more with some of our melts. So put them into your burner and away you go, and have heaps of fun. And let me know in the comments below what your favourite soy melt is, what your favourite fragrance is, and how you're enjoying those fragrances at the moment. So hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again soon on the next video.